Hello and welcome to Coding to Christmas Challenge 10. Today's challenge we are looking at a game much like rock, paper and scissors, but this time we are doing coal, wrapping paper, ribbon, scissors. So when I'm first creating my game, I know that I'm going to have to get the user to input a move. So that's the first thing I'll do. So to do that, I will create a variable called user choice, and that's going to equal input. And I'm going to ask the question, what is your move? And I'll give some choices of coal, wrapping paper, or ribbon scissors. I'll put my /n on the end so that when I am waiting for an answer, it should appear on the next line. So let's just test that out. So you can see here on the right, the flashing cursor is now on the next line, and I can enter my move. I want to see what I've picked, so what I'll do is I'll print out that user choice. I'll print you picked and then add the user choice variable. So I'll concatenate the user choice variable onto my print statement. So I'll run that again, and now I'm getting to see my option. So when we're playing a game, we want someone to play against. And in this game, we're going to be playing against a computer. Because we want it to be random each time we play the game, we're going to use the random module. Whenever we're using a module, the first thing we do is import that right at the top of our code. Now I'm going to create another variable called computer choice, and that is going to equal random, so that's the module, and then the function within it is called random choice, and this lets me pick a random item from a specified list. So I use my square brackets inside my normal brackets to create a list, and in here I'll put in my options. So I have coal first, I have wrapping paper, and I have ribbon scissors. And like with my choice, I want to be able to see what the computer picked, so I will print out you picked or the computer picked, and again I'll concatenate with the plus sign the computer choice variable. Once I've done that, I'm going to test my code, so I'll enter coal, and you can see that I picked coal and the computer picked coal. To check if it's random, I'll run it again, and I can see that this time the computer has picked wrapping paper. So now in our game we have ourselves picking a move and we have the computer picking a move. So now we have to use some logic and conditionals to start playing the game. So what I'm going to do is create my first if statement, and it's going to say if the user choice is equal to coal, and within my if block I'm going to create another if block, so this can kind of be seen as a nested if block. So I'm checking if my user choice is coal and my computer choice is wrapping paper, or let's think of the one where we win. So if I'm coal and the computer is ribbon scissors, then I'm going to print you win. My elif is going to be if I lose, so that would be if the computer choice is equal to wrapping paper, then I will print you lose. And then I'm going to use my else to catch the third where it would be a draw. So this would, as it's the final option, this can also be kind of seen as if the computer choice is coal, then I'm going to print it's a draw. Now that I've created this if block, I want to test it. Because I only have the user choice of coal here, to test it I have to put coal in, and I can see that I picked coal, the computer picked scissors, ribbon scissors, so I win. I can try it again. This time I picked coal and the computer picked wrapping paper, so I lose. So to make your game a little bit better, if you are worried that someone's going to put in, let's say, capital coal, it needs to match this string exactly. So we want it always to be lowercase. So what we can do is use the lower function and put dot lower at the end of our input. And hopefully that'll change it so that if every time we pick something, so let me pick coal, you can see it's converted that to lowercase, and then it allows us to still play our game. Because these are quite long, we could also help the user by giving them shortcuts. So we could say you could enter wrapping paper or WP, coal or C, or ribbon scissors and RS. But if we're going to do that, we have to make sure that our if statement is updated as well. So it's saying that the user can enter coal, or the user can enter C. So again, every time I change a little bit of code, I just run it to see if it works. If it doesn't, I try to debug it then and there to make it a bit easier. So if I press C, you can see that it's taking that, it's still comparing it, so it's still, the if statement still executing. I picked C, which is coal, the computer picked wrapping paper, so I lose. So we know that's working. So now we can use this for the rest of our game. So we have elif, and this time the user choice will be wrapping paper or WP. And if we have wrapping paper and we want to win, the computer has to have coal, and for us to lose, the computer would have ribbon scissors. Okay, so now I want to test that. So firstly I'll try WP. So I picked wrapping paper, the computer picked scissors, I lose. I can try it again using different case. Again, it's formatted that for me because of the dot lower. It's saying I picked wrapping paper, the computer picked wrapping paper, it's a draw. So that section working. So what I can do now is copy that and paste it. So I think it's just gone slightly off the screen, so I'll just edit that so you can see it. So now I have my last one, which is ribbon scissors. So I have, if the user choice is ribbon scissors or RS, and I have to make sure this matches exactly what the user is entering. So I've got ribbon scissors or RS. If the computer choice is wrapping paper, then I will win. If it is coal, then I will lose. So again, I've added another section to my code, so I'm going to test that. So I'll first test RS. So I picked ribbon scissors, they pick coal, I lose. I'll try again. Ribbon scissors. I picked ribbon scissors, they picked wrapping paper, I win. That's working, and what we can have as our else statement is if the user enters anything that isn't what we want, which is coal, C, wrapping paper, WP, or ribbon scissors, we can just print out to them, you did not make a valid choice, please try again. And I'm just going to run that and put something completely random, and you can see here it's telling me I did not make a valid choice, so I will try again. So now we have a working rock, paper, scissors game. What we can do next, so again, there's lots of different ways. You might have done it differently to me, that's fine. There's lots of different ways to get to the same thing in coding. This is just one way I've done it. people from my team have done this in half the code I have. It's fine. It's up to you how you do it. So now we want to script the game so you play best out of 3. So to do that, we're going to need a while loop. And we'll need a variable that will allow us to cut the loop when we want it to. So we'll say while turns, and if I'm using a variable here, I have to first declare it. So I'm going to say turns equals 0. So I'm going to say while turns is less than 3, I want my game to keep going. But I have to get the turns to increment each time that this loops. So to do that, I could do turns equals turns plus 1. So the shorthand way of writing this, every time it loops, it's going to add 1 to 0, and then it'll increment 1, 2. Once it gets to 3, it'll break this loop. So a short way of writing that is turns plus equals 1, and it means the exact same thing. Then I could print out what turn it is. So we could put a /n here for a new line and say this is turn. And then remember, because turns is an integer, we need to cast that to a string. So we'll put turns here. All this code underneath needs to be included in our while loop. Remember, in Python, indenting is important. So if we don't indent this, it won't class it as inside the while loop. So to do that, you highlight all of your code that you want and then press the tab key, which is above the caps lock on your left hand side, and that will indent all your code for you. So let's try that. So we're getting here that it's turn 1. So for my first turn, I'll put coal. I'm getting it to draw. My second, I will pick wrapping paper. I lost this turn, and then now I'll do ribbon scissors. And you can see now that the game is playing to 3 turns. So what else you can do, another way to change your game up, is by getting the user scores. So to do that, we're going to create some new variables at the top, and we're going to have user win. So this is every time the user wins. We're going to have comp win for every time the comp wins, and I'm going to have a draw. And every time the user wins, we want to increment this by 1. So every time we have a U win, I'm going to do user win plus equals 1. So that means they get a point every time they win. I can copy this bit of code and just paste it underneath each time we win. Next, every time the computer wins, so every time we lose, I can do comp wins plus equals 1. So every time we see a U lose. And then lastly, for our draw, we can do the exact same thing, draw plus equals 1. So you pick each time that there's been a draw. So now what we can do is we can play the game again, but this time we can, outside of the loop, so once the loop has ended, we can find out our user scores. So we can say user score, and then again, remember that the user score will be an integer, so we need to cast this to a string. And we can do the exact same for computer score. And we concatenate the computer win variable on the end. So let's run that. So I'm going to pick coal the first time, wrapping paper the second time, and ribbon scissors the third time. And I can see now the user scores after the 3 rounds. You could change this up a little bit more if you want to kind of work out who won. best out of 3, and you can, let's start with, if the user win is greater or equal to 2, so they've won 2 out of 3 hands, we're going to print you beat the computer at coal, wrapping paper, scissors. So if we outright win, we're going to print that. Then we're going to do elif the user win is equal to 1 and draw is greater than 1. So if we win at least once, even if there's and there's a draw, then overall we're going to win. So we can copy this and print this underneath. Then we can check if the draw variable is greater than 2. If so, we will print you drew with the computer at coal, rock, paper, scissors. And now we have it where the computer wins. So if the computer gets 1 and there's a draw, overall the computer will win. And lastly, for anything else, which will be the computer getting great more than 2, we can print you beat the computer. We can add like a little new line here just to make it a bit easier to see our end results, and we can run that. So we have coal, we have wrapping paper, so we've got 1 draw, 2 draws, and wrapping paper. So we've got 2 draws and the computer won, and it's saying I beat the computer. And that is because I forgot to change my code here, so let's change that, say you lost to the computer. So this is like a little warning for when you copy and paste stuff, as I've just done. You've got to be careful because it could change your code in the end. So let's try it again. So we'll do coal, I've won, wrapping paper, I've won again. So that time it shows I've beat the computer. Let's try maybe one more time. So it's saying I didn't make a valid choice, so let's stop that and run it again. So I picked coal, the computer picked wrapping paper, so I lost. I'll pick wrapping paper this time, I lost, and then lastly ribbon scissors. And there it's confirming that I lost. So that's just a couple of ways that you can, firstly I would always create my game, do the bare bones, make sure that is working correctly, and then I would move on to adding little things. And again, you may be able to do this much quicker in a much shorter code, that's fine. If you get your code working, that's the main thing. So here we've looked at formatting our code in case people put things other than ribbon scissors to make it a better user experience. We've got a little error message in case they don't put any of the above. We now have our user scores getting entered so that we know how we're kind of, as a user, we know how we're faring against computer, and at the end it gives us a little message. So I hope you've enjoyed today's coal, wrapping paper, ribbon scissors, where you're kind of using a lot of the knowledge you've learned with us over the last 2 weeks. And Jake will be with you tomorrow to take you through Challenge 11. Bye!